Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I extend to you a very warm welcome to today's session. I sincerely hope all of you are in the best of your health. Today's panel discussion will be on the topic AI, the new power for marketeers, organized by Talent Sprint and etbrandequity.com. But before we get started, I will take a couple of minutes to set the context and then bring in our speakers to get the discussion rolling for today. Marketers strive to position their products to their specific customers by understanding their requirements. Hence, it is critical for decision makers to understand and use the power of artificial intelligence very effectively while making decisions on marketing campaigns, budgets, channels, identifying opportunities, and ultimately creating marketing USP. In today's session, we aim to unfurl the various possibilities of using artificial intelligence in the marketing process. And to enlighten us further on this topic, we have with us today three very experienced veterans. First, we have with us Sarvana Jayakumar, Professor IIM Calcutta. Professor Sarvana's research work is primarily in the nexus of public policy, development, and marketing. He's a subject matter expert in marketing analytics, AI, machine learning, and digital marketing. He has also authored several papers in journals of international repute. Professor Sarvana has developed and served as the incumbent director for analytics and digital marketing programs for executives. He has also won several research awards, including the Outstanding Research on Development by Global Development Network. Next, we have with us Lakshmi Narayan Ji. He is a management consultant and a business leader who loves solving business problems with the help of data, AI, and digital technologies. He's a management graduate from IIM Lucknow with a postgraduate diploma in AI and machine learning from IIIT Bangalore. He's an experienced management consultant with extensive experience in providing AI and analytics consulting to many Fortune 500 companies. His core areas include digital strategy, delivery excellence, analytics, digital media, pre-sales, and omnichannel marketing campaigns. He's also a visiting faculty in IIM Calcutta, IIM Lucknow, and IIM Trichy, engaged in teaching modern tools and techniques to students. He is an avid speaker at different industry forums and a regular guide to several MSMEs across the country. Finally, we have Arijit Chatterjee, Chief Business Officer, Czentrix. Mr. Chatterjee has over 20 years of experience in the technology space and is an ardent business leader steering strategic and operations leadership in challenging situations. Over the years, he has involved in diverse projects related to marketing, business development, sales, new product development, as well as innovation. At Czentrix, which is a customer experience and contact center solution, he is steering global marketing, new product visioning, and business expansion in North America and LATAM. He is also an alumni of the AI-powered marketing program from IIM Calcutta and Talent Sprint. With that, a very warm welcome to all the gentlemen today. A very quick announcement before we move on to our discussion further. So as the session progresses, I would request our audiences to keep sharing their questions with us in the Q&A tab. Towards the end, we will pick up the questions for our speakers to answer them exclusively for you. So without any further delay, I would sincerely request Professor Sarvana, Lakshmi Narayan, and Mr. Chatterjee to start off today's discussion on a high pitch. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Baisakhi, for the introduction, and thanks to everyone for joining us this evening to talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And special thanks to Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan from Deloitte and also Arijit, who's completed this program a couple of cohorts ago. Right, he was part of the first cohort. So thank you for taking your time to join us and also to help out the prospective students as well. Right. Let me start off today's talk by giving you a brief intro. I'll just start with a brief intro, give you a background, then I'll hand it over to Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, who will take you through key aspects of what is happening in the industry in terms of, the current prospects for AI and machine learning and different roles. Then I'll again come back and I'll talk about the course that all of you are interested in. So let me start with giving you a real-life illustration of what AI can do. Right. So this was a news article published in January of 2020. When we were actually envisioning something, putting together a course of this sort. This was a timely article and we actually shared it in the first batch as well. So here you can say that this was a front page of Times, and you can see that artificial intelligence actually beats the doctors at breast cancer detection. Right. So we're talking about results published in a top journal in the world, which is journal Nature, which is peer reviewed. So there are a lot of checks and balances into the results that are being published in this particular journal, right? So here it's kind of like you're comparing doctors who are actually treating people who their own patients, and they couldn't actually detect in a timely manner looking at the reading the different radiogram outputs, but AI could actually beat the doctors at breast cancer detection. So this kind of gives you a fair idea about how far and how advanced we have come in terms of using artificial intelligence and machine learning in detecting certain patterns and anomalies that are invisible to human eye, right? So just to get you started on this. So since we're talking about the power, how AI can actually add value to a marketer, right? So first few things to think about would be how AI can change marketing, right? So when I think we had this discussion in several cohorts in the first initial few sessions on driverless cars, right? So people think of driverless cars, the first thing that comes to their mind is yeah, the automotive industry would change, the insurance process will change, even to some extent the traffic and how traffic is being maintained, the signals, the traffic police department, all of those would actually go through a drastic change. But that's not the only field that's going to be affected, right? So breathalyzers, for instance, the market for breathalyzers are going to go down. The market for cloud computing, because people have a lot more time to commute, a lot more time to be productive during commute. So people who want to actually use cloud computing services, a lot more businesses especially might want to integrate their systems with the vehicles. So there are a lot more fields that are going to actually be affected. It's not just restricted to that automotive segment. If you think outside the box, real estate might also be affected because people don't really care about commute anymore. It's become a little bit easier. On the downside, on one side, number of accidents will come down drastically, but even if one accident happens, then people are going to react out because nobody is actually willing to take responsibility for it. When humans are at the wheels, they take responsibility, they think they are in control. And though the number of accidents are really high with human drivers, even if one accident happens with an AI, that's going to create a huge negative impact as well. So there are these different things that different aspects that one needs to take into account when you think about where we are going in terms of implementing AML daily lives. So that's just to give an illustration of how AI can change several. One particular drastic change, which is a driverless car, could have an impact, ripple effect on almost all the industries that you can think about, right? The second is sales process. So sales process typically, now you would have heard the Google convention on voice recognition and how a particular sales process is being handled by Google AI. Right. So with the advent of AI, the entire sales process can go through a drastic change. We'll look at few examples when we have time. In the course, we look at several examples like how the sales process, how different conversational AIs have actually changed the way sales process actually carry on. And last but not the least, shipping then shopping model. Typically, what we are aware of is shopping and then shipping, right? So, but with the advent of AI and predictive analytics, you can ship it directly to the consumer or ship it to the warehouse in anticipation of certain orders, and then the shopping can be done. That also brings in a lot of changes in the, in how we look at e-commerce as a whole, or how we look at even inventory management, right? So this just to give an example of the sales process. So one example is Conversica AI, who has actually taken over the entire industry of sales process, and they have actually have a customized AI for each process, where it takes over the sales process and it brings in the sales reps only when it's actually extremely necessary. Otherwise, it handles many of these queries, many of the lead management and lead conversions. It kind of follows up with them also regularly and it's able to convert. This is one example of sales process. The other example where it's already in action is for a model which is of shipping and then shopping is Stitch Fix. So we do a case study in the course as well on Stitch Fix, how they use data, right, about consumers, about what their preferences, about what they share on social media. Using all of those data, right, Stitch Fix is able to predict what kind of designs that what kind of apparel they are going to like, and they get into a contract with all their customers, that 6 month subscription model, and they ship the dress first, right? And if the customer likes, then he or she may keep the dress. If they don't want, they can return, right? So they rely on the power of data to reduce the returns because they know exactly well what the customers are going to like. So that's another example of where machine learning has played a huge role. Even Amazon is coming up with tried coming up with Amazon Wardrobe, where they're trying to follow the same model as Stitch Fix, where they'll ship it first and then let the customer shop at the door front. So imagine, like, you don't never have to place an order, right? So for instance, Big Basket or Amazon, they send you on a monthly basis based on the data that they have, based on what they know about you. They're able to ship everything that you require beforehand, and you never have to remember a to-do list or a shopping list, and it just automatically comes to you at the doorstep. the entire canvas of e-commerce changes, right? The process changes, consumer behavior changes, so there are going to be a lot of drastic differences. So that's how, well, that is the power of AI, right? So this is just to give a brief overview of three different aspects. One is driverless cars, the other is sales process, the third is shipping and shopping model. All these three can have a huge impact on not just the process but also the consumer behavior, how consumers behavior, how their behaviors are going to change in the future. So we do discuss all of these in a conceptual manner. Yeah. So now, having given that brief background on about AI and ML and a few illustrations of how it can have an impact, let me hand it over to Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan. So he will talk about where the market is heading and take you through the different aspects of the current market. Over to you, Lakshmi Narayanan. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Saruna. So I may request your help for changing the slides alone. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to connect with all of you today to speak a bit on how AI is changing the market, changing the marketing world. So I'm going to touch upon two topics. One, where is the market heading? And the other one is some applications of how AI is helping in the marketing space. So moving to the next slide. So you need to understand there is a changing landscape that is happening around us. So many times when we are part of the history, we never realize that there are so many things happening around. We have a lot of things that are getting automated today. Automated, initially when we were speaking about automation, it was more about process automation, isn't it? But today, if you notice, we are talking about automating the process plus capturing the data, and using the data, can I drive better decisions? Can I understand what is happening in the market? Can I understand, reduce the ambiguity a bit? Because it's a VUCA world outside, volatile, uncertain, ambiguous. So how can you bring a bit of certainty with the help of the data that you can bring across? So AI machine learning is definitely playing a role in this particular direction, and it helps brands, products, and decision makers to take better decisions. Automation and personalization is the new age mantra. I'm sure all of you know this. On one side, you're trying to automate every aspect of marketing. Digital transformation of marketing is happening. And on the other side, we are talking about how can we make use of the data to customize and personalize everything that we offer to the customers. So the real world of personalized marketing in the era of internet is something which is happening today. Internet plus AI is bringing a revolution in the space of marketing. And of course, thanks to the advent of technology, big data, data science, machine learning algorithms, all these aspects have ensured that we are able to derive better results for the marketing people to take better decisions for the customers. So AI/ML has enabled marketing decisions, which is transforming the marketing. You will realize that you would have seen it already. You would have been on the other side of the table trying to look at it, but now you have an opportunity to be on the other side of the table, drive decisions, use AI/ML data, everything to solve problems. So look at the industry reports that have come in. So 72% view AI as a business advantage. That's what PwC says. And MIT says that 9 out of 10 companies already use AI to improve their customer journeys, understand about what the customer is doing. In fact, Professor Saravana and myself, we have always discussed in the class with the previous cohorts that how behavioral targeting can be mapped today, the customer journeys, because for a conventional marketer, doing a behavioral targeting is slightly challenging. But thanks to the AI/ML, thanks to the data that we capture in the online world today, behavioral targeting is something which is making a difference in mapping the customer journey, segmenting them, and doing a better job with the customers. And New Vantage Partner says that 92% of the Fortune 1000 executives surveyed indicated that companies are accelerating the pace of their big data and AI investments. In fact, here I would like to share this popular joke. I'm sure all of you would have got it in WhatsApp. Who is driving the digital transformation? Is it the CEO, the CTO, or the COVID-19? I'm sure all of you know that COVID-19 has really accelerated the digital transformation in the market today. Your organization, my organization, every organization is going through this journey, of course, at a rapid pace now, thanks to the work from home culture and thanks to the new age e-commerce. Your parents and my parents have started shopping online, isn't it? That's a change that we are seeing in the market today. Good. So moving to the next slide, Professor. So it is critical for the decision makers to understand and use the power of AI effectively while making decisions on marketing campaigns, because not everyone wants to spend so much, right? They want to be very clear. In fact, if I have to use the term, surgical strikes on the customers, when to do what. Only with the help of data, the marketing people can achieve that. Optimizing the budgets, choosing the right channel, identifying the right potential opportunities where they can connect with the customers or prospects, and creating a marketing USP. Everywhere data is available today. The moment you have data, from the data you can recognize patterns. From the patterns, you can take better decisions, predict and do better decisions in the coming days. So that's where AI is making a difference in the market, helping organizations to achieve the right results, the targeted intended results. So that's a big difference that's happening in the market today. And moving on, so let's look at some of the successful AI applications in the marketing domain. Definitely, you have a lot to understand. I'm sure some of the products or solutions that we're going to talk about, you can very well relate to it. So let's look at the first application, Netflix. Of course, when we are in COVID, when we are in work from home, we cannot ignore this app, right? All of us would have subscribed to this one. Have you noticed some changes in Netflix compared to any other OTT app? I'm sure you would have seen a lot of personalization happening in Netflix. The movie recommendations that you get, the thumbnails that you get, everything is done with the help of data. Your behavior, whatever you as a consumer when you're using Netflix as an app, they keep monitoring your behavior. They understand what you're trying to do, what you like, your preferences, and then they try to bring across the personalized thumbnails so that you can choose and watch new series and spend a lot of time in Netflix. So location scouting for movie production, Netflix uses AI/ML data, and movie editing, streaming quality. And in fact, I can ask a trivia question here. Do you know which series was launched by Netflix purely based on the customer data? That is what they like, what kind of scenes they like, which screenplays they would enjoy watching, which actors they would enjoy watching. I'm sure some of you would have guessed it. If you have watched House of Cards, and if you're a fan of it, that's a case study for you. How Netflix has used House of Cards and created House of Cards with the help of the consumer data. Okay, so Netflix is something, a wow factor for all the people who are watching OTT platforms. Moving on, Amazon, another popular example we always discuss, right? When we talk about digital marketing, Amazon is an example. Marketing, Amazon is an example. AI-driven marketing, we cannot ignore them because they are the technology pioneers who are able to bring the best of technology in the marketing world. Take recommendation engine. Today, most of the companies are able to use recommendation engine. They're able to take a cue from Amazon. I'm sure you would have noticed that whenever you buy some product, there are a bunch of products that comes up. People who bought this also have bought this. That's typical recommendation engine. Machine learning is behind it. When you talk about future of marketing, Alexa plays a significant role, isn't it? You have Alexa at home. Alexa is going to play a big role. Professor Sarana was talking about automating everything, isn't it? The coming days, how things are going to be in the coming days. So voice search, visual search, all these aspects, the future of marketing, everywhere if you notice, Alexa is going to play a big role. Amazon Go stores, I'm sure some of you who had been to US would have visited it. That's the future of marketing, and AI/ML plays a big role in that. So it's all about connecting the dots and understand how the future is going to be and how AI/ML is playing a role in it. So moving on, dynamic pricing, Uber, Ola, what we are using today, almost everyone uses dynamic pricing, isn't it? Hilton uses machine learning based system to increase the demand forecasting, understand the demand supply gap, price it accordingly. Amazon, eBay uses dynamic pricing to offer customer prices. In fact, Uber is trying to do a bit of a study on understanding how much you are willing to pay. So on top of the demand supply gap based on the dynamic pricing, on top of it, they're also trying to observe, use some data to understand how much you will be willing to pay when there is a cab requirement for you. Based on that, they would like to adjust the price and ensure that they do not lose you even during the peak pricing. So a lot of data is being collected. And of course, with the help of machine learning, it makes wonders. Hyper personalization. I'm sure you would have seen Airtel Geo conflict a few years back. It started a few years back, and you all would have seen how companies were losing customers, isn't it? In fact, that was a time when telecom companies picked up the churn analysis. Why people are leaving? How can we target them? What kind of data I have about their utilization? Can I offer something exclusive based on their pattern, based on their behavior? So they were able to think a lot about it. They understood more about the customers, and they were able to personalize everything, offering then packages, everything they could offer it at a very, very customized level. So that's something which has been made possible with the help of AI and machine learning. So AI in retail definitely has a lot of role. Chatbots, any website that you visit today, there is a chatbot. You have normal chatbots, you have AI powered chatbots. AI powered chatbots are like digital workforce for you. 24/7, they can enable lead generation, they can target customers and bring in the power of all the aspects like tracking the behavior, CRM, everything. If you bring it together, AI can do wonders in carving out the products, creating better professional services for you, and of course, programmatic advertising, predictive merchandising, all these are specific solutions in the retail space, which is creating wonders for the marketeers and able to drive better ROI with whatever investment that they're making in this space. So AI in retail is another good one. So job prospects, if I have to quickly touch upon it, I need not tell you, by this time you would have realized that the market is full of AI applications. Just that we are trying to realize that, okay, there is a bit of data, there is a bit of AI, a lot of AI behind all these applications. You can see that every organization is investing in AI. Thanks to COVID, in the last 1.5 years, all the companies are trying to move to look at cloud plus AI, cloud plus machine learning, and how they can apply it in different domains. So the data is very clear. If you are a data-driven decision maker, the destiny is very clear. 10 years down the line, everything is going to be data driven. The moment it is data driven, it's going to be AI or machine learning driven, so that you can predict the future in a much better way. So every organization is investing in AI cloud. Be ready for the market, be ahead of the curve, and try to grab the opportunities. That's one a bit of a tip I would say, because any time when you're choosing a career option, education option, you should always look at the technology that is getting into the introduction stage and try to see how you can grab that and how you can be ahead of the curve. So definitely AI is one. That's something you can see from the data. And moving on, so AI is most wanted. Which artificial intelligence skills are adopters most urgently seeking? So when researchers were doing the research, of course, you can find that the focus has shifted from the researchers to the business leaders, especially in the AI space. AI has jumped out of the labs these days. Everything is available in your mobile, collecting data for the brands, collecting data for the marketeers, and they are able to interpret the AI results, make decisions, and take appropriate action. So that's something which has changed in the recent times. And every industry report that you read, Gartner, consulting firms reports, you all can observe this pattern that is happening in the market. So one final, if I have to quickly summarize, I would say that AI has a huge role to play because data is something. We are part of the information revolution today. With the information revolution, definitely that's something which has ensured that the data is getting created, the information is coming out. With the help of insights, the better predictions can be done with the help of machine learning and other technologies. So over to you, Professor Saruna, back to you. So for the next topic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lakshminarayan, for the great insights. So I think it's covered most of the aspects in terms of applications of AI. So let me give you a brief overview, and then we can jump into details about the program, and we can discuss a little bit more in detail about what aspects come into the program, right? So this is a screen most of you would be would have seen. I mean, different products, obviously, inspired by shopping trends. Lakshminarayan already covered it in terms of how Amazon comes up with recommendation engines. One of the key facts is 35% of Amazon's revenue actually comes from recommendations that they generate, right? So one is people can shop through the traditional browsing channel, which is categories, or they can shop through search, or they are going to shop through recommendations that come up. So recommendations generate about 35%, and the core of recommendation engine is a machine learning anyway. It's an algorithm. So you can imagine the importance of AML when it comes to digital marketing and in the retail space as well. So Facebook, obviously, there are a lot of majority of Facebook operations actually done based on AML, and you also have Amazon's, which we saw that example, and the other example that was already explained to you was Netflix. So these are the kind of products that we use on a regular basis, and they all actually run based on AML. And it's not very far for all the other organizations to catch up and to start understanding the importance of the power of having a lot more data and utilizing the data in a meaningful way. So that's where the market is actually headed, right? So recommendation engines are not just unique to Amazon. So you have several different companies, even smaller companies, have started to use powerful recommendation engines and trying to generate a lot more revenue out of that from the baseline. And you also have logistics and deliveries, routing recommendations also being generated based on AML. So all of these different aspects tell you that AI plays a huge role, and AI has a potential to play a huge role in several companies that are not yet adopted AML at all. This is just to give an example of something that AML and marketing automation together can what kind of insights they can give you. Like if you look at this one particular transaction, you're looking at one transaction from a family in Walmart, and you're seeing that they're buying a Diet Pepsi, they're buying an Atkins bar, they're buying Slim Fast. You can understand that there's someone in the family, probably a female, because Slim Fast is targeted as females, and you have someone who's counting calories. But then you also see ice cream, popsicle, Cheetos. Then probably you kind of understand maybe there is a child, there is a kid in that particular household. So one transaction has given you two insights, and let's say you're tracking them over a period of time because of the phone number. You're actually tracking them. The second transaction tells you they're buying some sort of baseball cards. This kind of confirms your hypothesis that there is a kid in the house, and then they're also buying dog treats. Maybe they have a dog in the house. This is a second transaction. Now put together another transaction after a week. Third transaction tells you they're buying fishing hooks. Maybe they have a hobby and they like fishing, right? They like fishing as a hobby. They're also buying marine oil, which tells you that they own a boat, right? Based on just these three transactions, right, you can put together an entire DNA of an household. So that's a small family who like to go fishing, and there is a dog in the household, and the kid likes baseball. So you can put together an entire idea of what group of customers do they belong to, and then you apply predictive analytics to that, and what kind of requirements are they going to have, likely going to have in the future. You combine that with marketing automation, automatically identifying, automatically predicting, and then automatically reaching out to them at the right point in time. You have a powerful marketing tool to reach out to your customers even before they reach out to the company, or before any milestone change that happens in the family. The system will be able to predict, and then you'll be able to actually come up with a recommendation. There are several examples of Target using several different algorithms. Just to give you an illustration of the power of data, with just 3 transactions, we're able to understand a lot more about the family. So think about 100 transactions in a year, so that you know a lot more in detail about the family, what kind of guests they are getting, what kind of vacations they take. A lot more information could be gained out of the transactions, the data that you're actually generating. So far, all this data have been used in a way that they bought this, so let's send them a coupon. They typically buy a particular item, so let's send them another discount voucher for that particular item, or send them offers on that particular item. But now it's more about using those transactions to understand the DNA of the family, and then to predict what exactly is going to happen in that particular group of households. So you put together a cluster of households or very similar, and then you try to predict what exactly is going to happen with that group of households, and can I reach out to them in a timely manner when they're looking for a particular product or a service. So that's the basic, one example of the power of AI can add to retail. In other fields, this I'm going to keep it a little brief, because there are several fields that AI is actually playing a huge role nowadays. And one is financial services. There, obviously, you can, for fraud detection, you're using AML algorithms for let's say credit card default, or should I offer a loan or not? How likely is a customer likely to sign up for a loan? So all those predictive analytics, right? So AML can play a huge role and help out the financial services in a great extent. So you already have several implementations in terms of algorithmic trading, in terms of chatbots, in terms of advisors, robo advisors who are coming up and giving investment advice. All of this, the base is actually AI and ML, right? And if you look at healthcare again, so healthcare again, there is a huge amount of huge drastic change in the healthcare space as well. So you can see the potential annual value of these different AML applications in the healthcare field with robot-assisted surgery. That's a different implementation of AML. But you can see fraud detection. There is a huge investment going in, and clinical trial participation, preliminary diagnosis, automated image diagnosis. All of these actually work based on AML, and there is a huge potential in the healthcare field, especially, to apply all of these technologies. Yeah. Uh, Going into marketing field, so this one another article that I would like to, so this is other example, only other example I'm going to use here. So where Harley Davidson publicized, and they said that they used AML to actually increase New York sales, because they were actually declining at one point in time around 2015-16, and they looked at the data, the amount of data that they had, the amount of leads that they were generating. They started using AML, and they're actually the sales leads increased by 2009-30%. That's a huge jump, right? So they're able to get the right crowd, and they were able to convert that crowd as well. So there AML is actually playing a huge role. Right. So why do we need to look at AML from as a business person, or as a budding CXO, right? So why do you need to look at AI, right? So you have a data science team, and they're really well qualified, and they know what they're doing in terms of executing all the algorithms and giving you the results. But as a business person, it's your responsibility to actually come up with the right questions to ask. What kind of problems can the data solve? what kind of predictive analytics can the data that I'm collecting now how can they help, or what kind of data do I need to collect so that I can actually predict certain things and I can actually put them into business use, right? So those kind of insights, that is a huge gap. Data science, you have a data science team who are really well qualified and well equipped to to execute any sort of algorithms that you can think of, but then you have the business case where they are really not the business mind behind the company, right? So you guys are the ones who are running the business, and whether you can understand what are the things that are what possible within this realm, and you're able to translate that to the data scientist team to get that work done. So that need for the translators, what we mean by translators is people who know the business objectives, who understand the business really well, who have very specific roles to play, but they're not necessarily hardcore coders. They don't understand, they don't have to code, but they need to be able to converse with the data scientists, or even if you are engaging an external organization, you need to be able to converse with that organization to get what can be useful for your business. So that's A in marketing. So that's the starting point for any person to look at the kind of role that they can play. So this kind of tells you how there are boundaries between data scientists and domain specialists. So if you look at Facebook and Instagram, you'll see a lot of memes also floating in terms of what data scientists are saying and the domain specialists, the marketing CXO, CEO, they're not able to, they're not conversing in a really smooth manner, right? So that's exactly the kind of issue that we're trying to solve in terms of making you well aware of what are the different methods available in AML, what are its capabilities, and what can you achieve, and how can you convert that into some sort of a business insight and implement that. So once you are able to grasp that particular aspect of how predictive analytics can add value and what are the capabilities, how do we actually implement that in a particular organization, then you are better equipped to actually deal with the data scientists. In some cases, yeah, you might go on and you might start coding yourself, but that's not required, right? So many of you would have a data science team in your own organization, and you'll be able to get the requirements actually translated in a neat manner, and you'll be able to interpret the results that they're actually giving to you, right? And you're able to take business decisions on whether that needs to be deployed or not. So that's exactly that's the need of the hour in terms of people who understand technology, who also have a domain knowledge, really strong domain knowledge. So they'll be able to execute that really well. So that's the gap in the market that we saw. So that's where this entire program comes in, where we talk about artificial intelligence powered marketing, right? So we've had two cohorts so far. There's a third cohort that we're planning to launch in a couple of months, in a month or so. And so here, I'm sure many of you would have gone through the entire detail. So what we're trying to achieve here is take you through the different analytics ascension or maturity, as we call it. So right now, many of the organizations in India, almost all the top organizations as well, if you look at them, they'll have the past month's data. They'll just provide the descriptive analytics, like this is what happened in last month, this is the age group that typically bought, now this average conversions that we had in the last 1 month, this average income of people who bought a product. So that's kind of like summarizing what happened in the past. So you have some past data, you're just summarizing it, and every month they call typically it's called a strategy team, and they'll send the reports every month to several divisions, and people look at the averages and they say, okay, it's all going in a particular way, and then that's it. That's how the data is being used, right? Typically, majority of us are stuck in the descriptive analytics space. Some companies go one step further and say, okay, age group 35 to 40 is buying a product a lot more. Can we figure out why? So that's diagnostic. That's a little bit more qualitative in nature, but people do actually ask. But this is where we are at this moment, right? But how can I use the data, whatever has happened in the past? Can I train something? Can I train a machine learning algorithm? Can I predict what will happen when new customers come in? Will they convert? Will they not convert? That is using the data one step further and going to predictive analytics. So I have the past data. I know who converted, who did not convert. Can I use the data and build a model so that when a new customer comes in, can I predict how likely are they to convert? Because if I know beforehand how likely they're going to convert, if I'm able to predict if a particular customer is going to convert or not, that gives me a lot of information, and I can actually approach that customer with a different aspect every time. If even in case for landing page, right? So before even I load the landing page, if I know that this customer, there's a high likelihood that they're going to convert, then I immediately focus on conversion, and my first fold, the landing page, the first fold is going to focus on call to action and convert, right? But if I know that this person landing, coming to my landing page is not likely to convert, they need a lot more information, they're on the edge, they're 50-50 percentage when it comes to conversion, then I can actually give them an offer and say, you need to pick us up over others, and this offer that we are providing, and you load a different landing page altogether. So you kind of, when you're able to predict, you're able to come up with prescriptive analytics. I can make it happen. If a customer is not likely to convert, how can I make it happen? That is prescriptive. So what we're trying to do in this course is, get you to move all the way from descriptive to prescriptive. So predictive is going to play a huge role there, understanding what kind of predictions you can come up with, what are the shortfalls, how do you work around certain limitations. So we cover all of that, and then we give you examples of, we ask you to think along the lines of how to make it happen, prescriptive analytics as well. So the idea is to take you up this maturity curve, the analytics maturity curve. Right. I hope it's clear. So it's a very, very simple, concept of past data is there. You're just describing it right now. But what we want to do is we want to predict using the past data so that I can predict the future, what will happen. That's foresight, optimization. Right. Anyway, so objectives of the program, I won't go through it in detail, but we all understand the importance of taking a data-driven approach when it comes to marketing. So that's one of the main reasons why companies are looking for data scientists. They're trying to build their ramp up their data science capabilities, but there is a huge lack of talent on the other side, where people who understand data science and machine learning and AML, artificial intelligence, and also the domain knowledge. So combine those two, you have a huge power in terms of what you can achieve. So that's exactly what we call as MarTech professionals, people who understand the domain really well and also the technology also really well, who are not essentially hardcore into coding, right? So we're talking about marketing tech professionals. Right. So the objective is to provide this program to current and aspiring CXOs, right? So who want to actually lead the business in this domain, and we have a lot of talent in at IIM. We have a lot of expertise in IIM Calcutta who are really experts in this particular field when it comes to quantitative courses, and we would also combine with few people in the industry, and we will actually provide equip you with all that is necessary to understand predictive analytics, to understand artificial intelligence and machine learning, and to take it one step further and go to prescriptive analytics as well. Right. So overall, in this program, we have about 7 modules. And so I'll just take you through briefly each of these modules. Pedagogy, it's completely interactive. We use technology. It's going to be online. We use a lot of real life case studies. So I'll give you the glimpse of the case studies, what case studies we're going to use. We will have few quizzes and assignments, but evaluation is part of the program. But the core focus is going to be on case studies and in-class discussion. And we also have something called happy hours. So what we do is on Friday evenings, sometimes we do catch up with students and over Zoom, and we have informal discussion on what is happening in their company, anything that along the lines of technology and marketing. The program duration is for 6 months. It's 132 hours of classroom contact. Schedule will be on Sundays and Tuesdays. Sundays will be 2 to 5 p.m. and Tuesdays will be 6:45 to 9:45. So all this information you might already have. So I'm just reiterating it here. Course details, we have the initial start would be slightly non-technical in nature, so that we kind of cover few concepts in marketing, few data-driven marketing decisions, because we have people from different backgrounds with different. Some of you might have postgraduate, some of you might be coming directly from undergrad with a lot of work experience. To get everybody on the same ground, we start with a few sessions, like 5 to 6 sessions on data-driven marketing decisions, where we kind of lay the background or the context for AML to come in. So we talk about causality, we talk about prediction, we talk about different market research. So in case you need to collect data, you also know the different methods and the pros and cons. So we cover all of this in the first module. So it's not too overwhelming in the beginning. So it's kind of like comfortable for you to get the hit the ground running in terms of marketing, learning about marketing strategy and marketing decisions. So that's typically what we cover. This goes on for a couple of weeks on the max, 2 to 3 weeks at the max. Then immediately we jump into fundamentals of AML. So here you don't need to have math background, you don't need to have an IT background. We are not going to be giving you a lot of equations to learn. We're not going to give you a lot of mathematical derivations, none of those. We're going to be talking about only pure intuition behind each of these methods. How do each of these methods work? What are the intuition behind these methods, and what are the pros and cons, right? And that's basically the fundamentals of AML. We kind of make sure that you learn the terminology, you kind of understand in simple terms, right? How do you differentiate between apples and oranges? That's typically how we talk about different problems in the class. But anyway, So this module will be covered by a faculty from University of Missouri. His name is Professor Niladrisham. He's literally written the book on artificial intelligence and marketing, which will hit the shelves, I think, this year end. Right. So you'll be learning from the best in the domain, and he would not be going into math too much of mathematical equations or derivations. So it's going to be purely intuition behind these. What is the logic behind these methods? And if it's not necessary that you need to have any math background to understand these. So we will actually talk about a lot more from an intuition perspective. Right. The third module, which will run parallel, the second and third module will run parallel. So we'll talk about AML using R. We have chosen R because R is a much simpler language to learn, even for beginners. So we would take it really slow in the beginning because you have one session only for setup and one session for just to prepare the data. So how do I load the data? So we take you step by step, and we will also give you templates. So you don't have to write the code from scratch. You don't have to remember any syntax. You just have to know the steps and the logic behind it, right? So we will equip you with everything in R. So you will understand what are the different steps involved when I actually have to use the data and get some sort of insights out of that. So we will take you through every one of those aspects, different algorithms, how to run them. Typically, they are 2-3 line algorithms. So 2 lines of code, and you'll be able to run that algorithm, and you don't even have to remember the code because we'll be giving that code in class and explain what needs to be changed. You have your own data, you upload it, you just need to change the few parameters, and you'll be able to execute the code. So coding background is not necessary for this particular module. So we will be taking you by hand and explaining every single aspect through this entire program. Fourth module is AML applications and marketing. Here we'll jump into a few more applications. We will introduce a few more algorithms, but we'll talk mostly from an application perspective. We have several case studies. One is Indian apparel store chain. Another one is Apollo Hospitals in Chennai. Then Net Promoter Score at Manipal Hospitals. All of them in Indian context. So we will also give you certain data, and I'll talk about this module and the case studies on how you need to work on it in a little while. But yeah, so AML applications and marketing, we'll cover a few more aspects. Apart from predictive analytics, we also talk about clustering and forecasting and stuff like that. So we'll equip you with understand the intuition behind all these methods, even get your hands dirty with some data, and then write the code and see how you're able to execute. And we'll get back to how we have changed over the last 2-3 cohorts. I'll get back to this as well. And the core focus will be on AML and digital and social media marketing. Here we have 5 case studies along with a lot of examples that will be discussed in class. Mr. Lakshmanan will come in for AML applications and digital marketing. We will also talk about marketing automation and marketing in the world of Alexa. Then I'll be taking you through a little bit about, because not all of you might be from the digital marketing background. We'll cover a little bit of background in digital marketing, and then we'll go into a little bit applied, where applying machine learning to how do you deploy recommendation systems, what kind of recommendations can you generate. You also have a case study on with data from Big Basket. We'll also be looking at VMware, which is another company from India. So we'll look at customer digital journey at VMware, what kind of data is generated online and what can they do with the data. And again, another example is Eureka Forbes. They also collect data online, and how are they actually using AML to improve customer experience. So we'll go through all of these case studies in this particular module, and we'll also be looking at explaining the intuition behind recommendation systems. How do they work? What are the best practices? How to go from point A to point B. So you don't have a website now, so how do you generate a website, and how do you go all the way up to a data-driven website? So we cover end-to-end in that particular manner. We also have some sort of text analytics, which can be applied to social media and user-generated content. So we'll cover all of those in detail in this particular module, and you'll be doing 5 case studies over here as well. All those are real-life case studies from India with data from those companies. And finally, we have one short module on where the future of marketing is going beyond AML. So here we'll have the other program director, Professor Devashish Shah, come in. So he will talk about blockchain. He's an expert in blockchain and smart contracts. He'll talk about their applications in marketing, and also talk about Internet of Things, augmented reality, and virtual reality, how they can be applied in marketing in different examples, and how to look what to expect in the next few years. Right. So this is basically what we have in mind for futuristic marketing, and only in the second and fourth and fifth modules, where we have 4 case studies, and where 3 plus 5, so there are 8 case studies from the Indian context. You will also get the access to what we call as tech scribes, right? So from Talent Sprint. So basically, they are well versed in coding. So you will be reaching out. Your job would be to, as a group, you'll be put into different groups, obviously. So you don't need to actually have a strong coding background. You don't have to code many of these things. So here, what you'll be doing is you will be reaching out to the consider them as a data science team. So you're working in a company, and they are your data science team. You're going to give them instructions. They're going to write the code based on your instructions, purely based on your instructions. They're going to write the code, translate that into code. They're going to write the code. They'll give you the output. So you will have to figure out whether that output is acceptable or not, what kind of insights can be developed for all these case studies. So modules 4 and 5, you will have access to, you'll be put into groups, and each group will have access to one particular data science resource. So consider that, you're working in a company and you have a data science team. How would you actually converse when you have an issue of this sort and you have a data in hand? So that will actually give you a lot more experience, and you don't have to worry too much about coding. And of course, if you're interested in coding that yourself, well and good, you can do that, but you'll have access to a data science team as well. That's the idea. So anyway, so that's the basic overview of the entire program. So what we did in the initial first cohort is, once the first cohort was done, the students were still in touch with us. So we have one of our who completed the course in the first cohort, Mr. Arijit Chatterjee. So he will take you through what we did even after the course was done. So Arijit, can you shed a light on what activities you've been doing after the course? Yeah. Okay, while that's being sorted out, let me give a brief of what we've done. So one of one major part of the course is a capstone project, where you'll be put into different groups, and each group will be working on either their own company's issue, or they can come up with any of the companies that they have contact with. They could take up that particular issue and apply the learnings what they've got in the what they've received in this particular course, and then apply AML to that particular issue. So that's a real life problem that you'll be working on, and you'll be put into groups. Obviously, you'll be working as a group, and you can choose either to work with one company or a couple of companies depending on how much access you have. And what happens here is people work on that particular capstone project. At the end of the course, they make the presentations. The capstone project will
Hello,
also
can you
have
hear
a
me?
yeah, Arijit, yeah, you're audible.
So, Professor, as you were mentioning about what we did post the course. So, first of all, the course is very engaging, and we got a very good perspective from this course about application of AI in marketing, because AI, whenever it is perceived, it is more perceived from a product perspective, from inside the organization perspective, but outside the organization from sales and marketing, how it can be useful. So we have taken a capstone project, and because capstone project is short duration, so we were looking at a brick and mortar company and how they can apply marketing and the AI in marketing to understand marketing intervention and how it boosts the sales. And we did it, but it was a limited exercise inside the course, and we took that and we are continued writing and working more on detail about that project, which is actually culminating towards kind of a white paper. And it is also a very good application of what we learned in the class, and then trying to do the same thing in the real world and taking it forward towards real application, so that we can see how this predictions, that is the AI model, is providing, really how it is going to boost the sales.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more about your experience in the course and with the prospective students? Yeah. So thanks, Arijit, for sharing that. So the capstone project, like mentioned, is a short duration project. It's like 3 to 4 months that you'll be working on that project. And as a group, you'll be interacting with the group members, and you'll have to work on it on your own, and you need to come up with the solution. You need to come up with an architecture and present the results in the last few sessions, of course, right? So overall, there is a lot of interaction during the entire course with the faculty and among your peers. And peer learning is actually one of the major aspects of this particular course, because in the first cohort also there are a lot of people who are still in touch and who actually work together on several different marketing issues as well. So anyway, so that's the basic overview of the course and what you can expect from this. If there are any questions, so if there are questions, can you please list them out by Psyche? So I'll turn it over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, surely. So thank you, Professor Sarana, Mr. Chatterjee, and Lakshmi Narayan for such an insightful session. We indeed garnered quite some intriguing and interesting learnings today. So we'll move on to a Q&A session where a lot of questions has come in from various industry verticals. I'll keep the questions open for all so that anyone of you can take it up as deemed suitable. However, the first, I have two questions for Mr. Chatterjee that came from the audience specifically for him. The first question that we have is, I'm a sales professional with 10 years of experience in B2B and B2C vertical. So how will AI help me in my career?
So, interesting that you mentioned that you have 10 years experience in the sales field. So, because we have several profiles from the sales with exactly 10 years of experience in cohort 2 as well as in cohort 1. So, what we talk about and where this can add value is, let's say, even in B2B, it's not just limited to B2C, even if it's in B2B or B2B. See, AML can add a lot of value in terms of predictive analytics. So, how much more your sales process could be streamlined and could be made more effective if we can actually figure out which of your leads are actually going to convert, what is the likelihood that they will convert with the high accuracy, right? So if you know beforehand, someone is actually on the fence 50-50, right? So then you know that you need to make an offer to them. They're a warm lead and you need to actually nurture them a little bit more and you need to convert. On the other hand, you know that a certain group of certain leads are actually the probability of conversion is 90 to 95, right? Then you automatically know that you don't have to push any offer to them. All you need to do is get the conversion done, right? So AML can add a lot of value in terms of optimizing your efforts in terms of how to actually maximize the conversions, right? You know beforehand a particular lead, though how promising they look, the probability of conversion that the AI is predicting is about zero point 0.2, right? Then it kind of gives an information they're a cold lead, and you're not going to put in a lot of effort. You're going to give them a lot more information for them to go through and try to nurture them to it to the next level, right? So that kind of adds a lot of value when you can predict something about your sales conversions. That's number one. Number two, you can also forecast sales, right, to a much better accuracy level when you're actually using machine learning to understand from different territories what exactly are likely to happen, and different marketing mix, how it's going to actually result in what kind of sales are they going to result in. So you'll be able to predict a lot more along those lines as well. So it's not just one application. There is a wider range of applications you can think of when it comes to sales roles, right? So there are a lot of other examples, but let me keep it short. So I think that that gives you some idea about predictive analytics and where it can add value, right?
We have Mr. Chatterjee with us once again. So if I may request you to speak something so that we get to know.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah, much.
perfectly. So I'll just share the question that we have exclusively for you. So one of our audience is interested to know that how was your experience throughout the program? Why did you join this program on the first place? And also, is there any prerequisite in terms of technical knowledge to join this program?
Okay, excellent. So, first of all, we all know that AI in business is becoming more a norm now. It is not an option anymore. So, and being into a business where we are providing software technology for customer experience, so AI is a very important thing, and we are doing it for some time. But what was very interesting to understand that how AI can help in the realm of sales and marketing, because traditional industries and even new gen industries no all do not use it for their own sales and marketing, as well as more or so e-commerce companies have been doing it for a long time, but rest of the industry is not doing so. That was the interest to join the course to understand how AI can be applied in sales and marketing. In terms of the prerequisite or technical understanding, yeah, one thing is very important which I would say, even people may deny, is that the person should have a interest, or at least the inquisitiveness to understand this technology. It's not necessary that you have to learn the programming, though in this course the programming is very simple using R, and that can be done easily. But still, the inquisitiveness to know the technology is one prerequisite I would expect people to have it. Any other questions, Masaki?
No, I have a couple of questions. So as I've mentioned, I'll keep it open for you all so anyone can take it up. Thank you for sharing your experience. With that, I'll move on to the next question. So the next question is, AI is a technical subject, but I'm not a technical person. So how will I be able to grasp the technical aspect of this program?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, so you don't have to have a math background, you don't have to have an IT background, you don't have to have coding experience. So we will talk mostly in terms of intuition behind these methods. We are not expecting you to become experts. We are not expecting you to become data scientists who are going to go into coding. So what we would want you to know is what are the different methods that are available, right? So if you look at 20 years ago, customer relationship management, CRM was a buzzword, and people are thinking, how do I learn CRM? How do I, will companies adopt CRM or not? Now it's kind of like, it's everywhere. Without CRM, nothing works, right? So it's more from that perspective. So you don't have to actually program and build a CRM system, but you need to know how to use a CRM system. So think along those lines, right? So later on, as the market progresses, a lot of these terms will become mainstream, and you would have to know what these terms would mean. And we would actually be covering those mostly in a non-technical manner, so that you understand the logic and the intuition behind them and how to apply them. So more focus will be on interpreting and application. That is one aspect. Number two, we will be taking you through R right from the basics, even to install R, how to get it done. And we'll have a dedicated session to install R. And we'll be giving you the coding template. It's like, you have a 5-6 lines of code, you have it with you, you just change the name of the file and you'll be able to run any algorithm there. That's it. So we'll be actually hand-holding you over there in terms of initial stages of getting you comfortable with that technology. The course is actually designed for people from non-technical background. So having said that, modules 4 and 5, there we will be giving you real life cases, and they might be a little bit complex. So that's where we give you access to a data science team, right? So you will be talking to the data science team, and you'll be telling them your requirements. So similar to what your role is right now. So you look at your current business, you look at the data that you have. This is the customer data that I have. How do I use it? So now that you know the terminologies, can I go to the data science team and tell them, can you execute and give me the results? So they might use any technology they want, or any platform they want. They will execute and give you the results. You should be able to, based on the course, you should be able to read it and say, this is a kind of decision I need to take based on the results come. This is a kind of prescriptive insight I can come up with. So that will be a job. So it will be more like an training for actually implementing it in real life. So you don't need to have a lot of training, coding background or technical background at all, right? I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
It's a great opportunity to learn, actually. So moving on to the next question, I'm a business analyst in my firm. So how AI in marketing will be useful for me?
See, like I mentioned, so I showed you to this particular question. So I showed you the different analytics ascension or analytics maturity, right? So when you're a business analyst, look back and see where exactly do most of your work lie. So it might be in the descriptive or diagnostic analytics, or at the max you might go into, basically describing what has happened in the past. Or as a business analyst, you might be working with the requirements of your clients and trying to convert that into a platform that could actually be. So there are different roles that business analysts may play. In any of these roles, if you're able to have a good grip on AML, so even if it's a client-facing role, right? So you actually, when you look at the client's business, you'll be able to come up with several applications of machine learning, and you'll be able to build a better rapport and better, better kind of grasp the requirements of the clients, and you'll be able to suggest better outcomes as well. That is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is you'll be able to translate those requirements effectively to your technical team as well, in terms of what kind of output that the client really needs. That is from one perspective as a business analyst. As a business intelligence analyst, you might be working in descriptive analytics. So can I move to predictive analytics? So both these would actually be addressed by this particular course anyway. Yeah.
Great. Moving on, the next question is, according to you, what are the biggest challenges in applying artificial intelligence in marketing?
Yeah. Lakshman, you want to take the question? Take this one. Yeah.
I can take that, Professor Sarma. Thank you. So to quickly answer this question, the primary challenge, I would say that the availability of the data, the quality data. So this is a common problem across domains. I wouldn't say only marketing, but of course, with the digital online marketing coming into picture, we are capturing a lot of data, but still the data availability is something which is a challenge. One. Second thing, I would always describe AI machine learning as a kind of hungry Godzilla. I'm sure if you have seen, if you're 90s kids or 80s kids, you all would remember the Godzilla movie and how it eats. So AI is always like hungry Godzilla looking for data. More and more data, better the algorithms, better the accuracy of the model. So with more the data, obviously the models are going to give you better results over a period of time. So we are in the nascent stages. The organizations are trying to capture the data at this point of time. So I would say that data capturing is something which is very, very important. And organizations are trying to put in processes to capture the data, use it with other data internally captured already within the systems like ERP, CRM, and other data, and try to make more sense out of it. So that's one challenge. And the second thing is obviously, as Professor Sarana mentioned, the domain plus technology knowledge. In fact, to answer, connected with the previous answer that he was talking about, finally, how do you apply technology to solve business problems? That perspective is something which is a gap in the market slightly. We have engineers, we have business people, somebody who has to bridge the gap between the two techno-functional people who can bridge the gap. So that's another challenge that we see in the market today. So courses like this would definitely help people to become specialized in technology, solving the business problems with the help of data and technology. So these are the two primary challenges I can think about.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. So we have three more questions which are very industry specific. So the next question is, how is the pharma industry using AI to increase ROI and ensure better CRM effectiveness when compared to conventional methods?
Yeah. So specifically in pharma, right? So I've worked with the pharma for some time as a consultant at least. So I'm aware on the ground how exactly they were using data in the initial stages. Like I mentioned, the initial stage data would be every single division that they have. The strategy team would send the monthly report, like, this is the average sales that we could get from the IMS Health, and this is the average prescriptions that we get. So all those would be descriptive in nature. Right. So where AML could play a role is, number one, it can predict the forecast the demand. So at the stockist level, what would be the demand? At the retailer level, what would be the demand? And if you change the marketing mix, so what exactly would be the impact on sales? So number one is coming up with demand forecast. So there are obviously machine learning algorithms can add a lot more value because their accuracy of forecast is really, really high. And number two is since we don't have direct to consumer advertising in India, right? So the main vehicle of promoting something would be through medical representatives, right? So their territory allocation, territory optimization, and what kind of response can I expect from different doctors? Who are the doctors who are my core, who are currently, who are the new doctors that I've acquired, and who are likely to go into the core doctor group of mine, who can be evangelists for me? All those predictions, right, can be done effectively with AML because pharma companies have a huge amount of data. So sometimes they do their own market research and collect data on prescriptions done by different doctors. Sometimes they they buy the data from other organizations that provide them this prescription level data. So AML, so rather than just describing what has happened in the market, if you're able to apply AML there, you'll be able to come up with a lot of predictions that could actually optimize your marketing efforts. Marketing efforts typically being your detailing and the order of presentation of your molecules. That also could be determined using AML. So to that extent, the data could be useful. So there are several applications there. The applications are endless. So once you are aware of conceptually what are the different methods, what are the different algorithms, and what are the capabilities, right? Then you will realize that the possibilities are endless because the amount of data generated in pharma is quite high, or held by any pharma company is actually quite rich in nature. So what I just mentioned were also few examples. One, predicting the sales in the stockist level. Number two, optimizing your marketing efforts. Number three would be prediction about doctors at the individual level, at the individual doctor level. What are the percentage prescriptions can I predict? Who are likely to be my evangelists? So all those could actually be done with AML to a much greater accuracy level. Yeah.
The next question is, I'm into media advertising sales. So how will this program help me in media or advertising industry?
Yeah. Lakshmanandan, you want to take it or should I?
You can go ahead, Professor. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the media space, glad that you asked. One of the in cohort one, Arjit might be aware. In cohort one, we had a person from Z channel who was working with Z, consulting or working with Z channel. I forgot the scenario. So he was actually working with us, and he was able to apply this particular learnings from this particular course, and he was able to actually take the metadata from different ads, like who are the key characters in these ads, who are the key, what was the kind of scenario. So he could prepare an entire data set. They also had the viewership data on how many people actually viewed it, how many seconds did they view it, and they were able to build a model and predict what kind of headline, what kind of caption, and what kind of content, and what kind of characters are typically getting a lot more views in Facebook. On what kind of these source characteristics are getting a lot more views in let's say Instagram. So they were able to figure out, build a model, and they're able to come up with a model which could tell them what combination actually resulted in highest number of views. So cross the 5-second threshold, cross the 10-second threshold. So when they were coming up with a new clip, they could actually plug into the model and see what kind of target segment would result in more than 5 seconds of. So when you create a Facebook audience and push it to them, you can actually predict and say this Facebook audience, they're much more likely to cross that 5 second threshold. So this model was actually built by the student as a capstone project in the first cohort. So that was a very good application in the media and advertising space. And again, like I mentioned, the applications are limitless. So depending on the context that you're talking about, you'll be able to apply that in that particular scenario. This is just one example anyway. Yeah.
Okay, two more quick questions. We are in a chemical distribution company, so how will this program help us, and what kind of infrastructure do we need to run AI?
What kind of? Sorry.
Infrastructure do we need to run AI?
See, in terms of infrastructure, so I'll ask Lakshmanan to respond on the chemical industry. He will talk about preventive maintenance, and he'll talk about the other terms in the B2B segment. But in terms of infrastructure, so all you need is a system, right? That's it. So all you need is a normal, any Intel system that could actually handle R and R Studio, which is any system that comes out in the market right now. So infrastructure-wise, when it comes to modeling, you don't need a huge computing power or anything. Your normal desktop or laptop will be able to handle it, right? In terms of deploying it in real time, you have cloud services where you can where you can get this uploaded, and then the results will be automatically sent to the different systems. So those are all simple to manage. So we're not talking about infrastructure in terms of a huge server and huge workstations. Infrastructure is bare minimal. We are not building robots, by the way. So let me make it clear. We're not building robots. We're using the data to make predictions. We're using machine learning to make predictions about what could happen in the future, and based on the data that you have. So infrastructure wise, you don't need a lot. Your system is more than sufficient to start working on different AML applications. Yeah. Lakshmi Narayan. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have to look at the practical applications in your context, I'll try to keep it in simple terms. At the end of the day, any data that you have across domains, finance, marketing, HR, operations, any data that you have, you are able to derive a bit of intelligence, use your experience, and with the help of that experience, you have intelligence to derive insights from it. That's what we call it as gut feeling, right? In a way, gut feeling is also an insight coming from your experience based on the data. So whatever you are able to derive from your experience in the industry today from the data, the same thing machine can do with the help of AI. As Professor Sarana rightly pointed out, bringing the power of data on the cloud with all the analytics and machine learning applications on top of it, it can create better insights. It can help you to derive better results. Solutions are plenty. Like if I have to generalize it for manufacturing as such, as Sir rightly pointed out, it's more about digital twin as a concept. Predictive maintenance, you can bring that across. Demand forecasting, everything you would be able to do it with the help of data. So if you have captured data, if you have data in your organization in some form, be it Excel sheet or in a proper systems, you have the power to use machine learning to take the organization to the next level. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and to add to that, right? So usually what happens is people have this misconception that I work in a B2B setting, so can machine learning be useful for me? So we have had people from from B2B in the first cohort as well as in the second cohort, and their projects have been taken up with the capstone project by the groups, and they have been able to implement that as well. So just to add to what Mr. Lakshmanan said, so you can, when you have when let's say you go through this course and then you try to figure out how do I actually implement it, right? So we talk about something called a bottom-up approach, right? You go with the data that is currently there in the organization. So what is the data that is neatly available, and what can you do with the data from the learning that you already have in the course? Then you start implementing it and showing the results to the management, right? In terms of how the process can be improved. That's what we call as bottom-up approach, because you already have the data in hand. You're trying to reverse engineer and figure out what can be done with the data and how can it add value to the business at the top level. So that would be the good starting point to make a change in the organization. The other way is to look at the top-down approach and say, this is a business objective. This is the kind of predictive analytics that can help me with the business. These are the predictions I need to make. For these predictions, I need this kind of data. That would be a top-down approach, which requires a different kind of mindset altogether. So what we make you well accustomed to is both the approaches. So you start with the data, identify what is the pattern in the data, what can you predict, and how can you connect it to the business objective. Other one is look at the business objective. What data do you need? How do you collect the data? So we kind of cover both these approaches as well. So in many cases, people use the data in the capstone project itself, and you have a group of people working on it for 3 months, and you'll be able to come up with a lot more richer insights on how to actually apply that in your company, right?
Thank you. And the last question that we have is, can we use Python in the course instead of R?
Yeah. So the reason this is a major question that we get all the time. The reason we chose R is people who are not who have not had any coding background, they'll be able to pick up R on the first day because it's not an object-oriented programming. It's very simple to 2-3 lines and you'll be able to pick it up. Again, the idea here is to not make you data scientists, but to get you get you some sort of hands-on when it comes to implementing these algorithms, so you get a feel of what the data scientists do. The reason we have gone with R is simple. The coding is very, very simple, and you can keep it really, really simple. And if you already have Python knowledge, you would be able to implement that on your own. Having said that, when I mentioned you have data scientists, access to data scientists in the fourth and fifth module, the data scientists will actually be solving the problems that you're mentioning to them in Python only, and they'll be giving you the results in a output in a proper format, in a table or in a tabular format. So actually, the technology behind it is actually Python in the module 4 and 5. The idea is to train you in R, but when you talk about R, we are not talking about remembering the codes. So what we'll be telling you is when there is missing data, this is how you handle it, right? So whether it's Python or R, the way you handle it should be the same, right? So should I drop them? Should I actually do something else with them? Should I actually include them in the analysis? So that's the kind of insights you will get out of the modules. Number two is I load the data, I deal with the missing values, then I deal with what kind of algorithm I need to provide. So that's a step by step that we would actually teach you. R is just a vehicle to run that, right? So you can follow the same steps and you will be able to run that in Python as well. The results will be the same, the answers will be the same, irrespective of whether you're going to use Python or R. But we have chosen R. The reason is it's much more simple for beginners to not get intimidated by too much of coding language here and there. It's just simple English. So that's why the reason we went to that. But if you're comfortable with Python and you're able to resolve solve the problems in Python, you can very well go ahead with that. And just to reiterate, modules 4 and 5, you'll have a data science team, and the data science team will work on Python, and they'll give you the results. So it doesn't matter what is going on in the background. Your job will be to give them the right instructions, get the output, and make the interpretation. So yeah.
Thank you. That was quite some amount of information that we have, garnered in the last 1 hour. So with that, thank you, speakers, once again for taking out time and being with us today. With that, we come to the end of today's webinar. I hope all our audiences found this event to be pretty insightful and engaging as much as we have enjoyed putting it all together. But before we wrap up, Team Economic Time wishes all our audiences safety and the best of health. Have a great evening ahead, all of you.